And with me today, I have Jenny Gonzalez, who is a licensed social worker who works at Marywood University as the STARS program director. STARS being Students Together Achieving Remarkable Success. And I'm going to just toss it over to Jenny. She wants to just let us know a little bit more about, everything that you've done and a little bit of your story.
Well, thank you very much for having me here. I'm really excited. So STARS, which is short for that very long title, is an after-school mentoring program that was created in 2018 in response to the growing Hispanic and Latino community in this region. And at the time, I was a graduate student at Marywood University, and I was doing a lot of research on how public education has impacted BIPOC communities in across the country, but with a special emphasis on the Latino community. And so what we found was that Hispanic and Latino youth across all academic levels had the lowest academic achievement rates. And because of that, we went into the Hispanic and Latino community to understand what their experience was in the Scranton area education system was.
Right.
And what we found was that a lot of Hispanic and Latino families struggled helping or advocating for their children in the education system because of the language barrier.
Right.
And so because of that, they asked that one thing that would be very helpful for them was to have some kind of after-school program that would provide academic support to children, especially once they reached middle school, because by the time you get to middle school, the math is getting harder, literacy, reading, is starting to get more advanced. And for, parents whose English is not their first language, it's really becoming hard to academically assist them.
Which makes sense. I mean, my mom was having issues, and we're English speakers. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And she was having issues, trying to help me with my homework. So I can only imagine what it's like for someone whose parents can't really understand the language that well.
Correct.
So I could definitely understand that.
And so this program started as a very small part-time after-school mentoring program. Right. Over the years, however, as you have seen, the Latino and Hispanic community has grown. And in response to that, so has the program. And so we started with 20 youth, and it was 7th through 12th grade students that we served. And now the program has expanded to serve around 71 youth.
Oh, wow.
And it has expanded from 7th grade to including children down to 3rd grade.
Okay.
And so again, previously, when it first started, it was more in response to the academic support that Hispanic and Latino parents requested. And now it offers more of a holistic support to not only the child academically, but to the family unit.
Oh.
And the reason for that is because
Right.
Children will not academically reach their full potential if there's other circumstances in their life that are struggling. It's starting with their most basic needs: food, shelter, safety, a sense of belonging, security. And so in order for us to better serve this community, we really need to look at the family as a whole versus just the child, so that if the family as a whole is doing well, then the child will academically thrive.
Nice. And now I've noticed just being here, so I moved to the area fully in early 2021. And between 2021 till now it's 26, there's been a lot of growth, not only with the Hispanic community, but with their businesses, especially in the South Side region of Scranton.
Yeah.
So I think, with stuff that you guys are doing and really helping that, I think that really leads to a lot of future small business owners, which, helps to revitalize a lot of the city, because the city was struggling for a very long time. So what do you see the path going for this organization, for what you're doing right now?
So, I mean, I think our program will only continue to grow, and it's
Right.
not exclusive only for Hispanic and Latino youth, but that was the target population at first.
Right.
I believe that it's only going to continue to grow because the community continues to grow.
Right.
And with that, there are obviously contributing to our community through revitalization, through different opportunities. But there's also some challenges. And I think that we try to meet some of those challenges through the program STARS, where we're trying to fill in the gaps for the family unit, not just for the child, him or herself.
Right.
But I mean, the Hispanic and Latino community members moving here has positively impacted our community.
Yeah, I would definitely say
has revitalized this community. You see it if you go down to Hazleton, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, and you were there in the late 90s. Empty stores, empty buildings, really rundown homes because of the growing immigrant population, but especially the Hispanic and Latino population, which has been the fastest growing minority group. You're seeing that change. I've been here since the 90s, and you're seeing, a lot of the stores on Cedar Avenue, on Pittston Avenue, on Main Avenue.
Yes.
My goodness, there's so much life. There's so much light.
And you have people walking around. Like, I feel like I haven't seen that before, because my parents bought their house here in Scranton back in 2014. And, visiting here and during college, like, you didn't see anybody walk around right there on Main Avenue in Scranton. So now, like, all these people coming in, it's nice to see life back down, just in West Side alone.
Yes, and then here on Main Avenue, you see Italian restaurant, Italian winery. You used to have a Lebanese restaurant. Yeah. You have a Mexican restaurant. You have Dominican hair salons, barbers. Like, it's literally a melting pot, and it's beautiful.
Oh, yeah, and I think that really shows, that's what America is, right? America is a melting pot of cultures and ideas. And I feel like, what we're seeing now is that.
Absolutely. I agree.
Now, what are your aspirations for what you want to see, like, this region that was once, dying, with people being, moving out of the area for all the opportunities? What do you see with this growth going forward? What do you see and hope for your daughter? And maybe like your nieces, nephews, or whomever.
Yeah. So, when I was growing up in this region, a lot of people, especially millennials, they were the ones that were like graduating high school, going away for college. And I don't want to come back. But I see that changing. I see a lot of people who have left somehow are making their way back. And I think it's because they do believe that this region has a lot of opportunities for them. And so if they believe that they have a lot of opportunities and at one point they left,
True.
I can only imagine, these different Hispanic and Latino families that are moving to this region, they're seeing the same opportunity. And what I do hope is that this community continues to embrace differences, diversity, because that's what makes this region stand out and thrive.
Right.
Although Scranton is not this huge city.
No, it's very small.
It is small, in many ways, but you could essentially go to, if you're looking for different types of cuisines, you can find them in this region. Why? Because of the diversity that's coming here. But I do hope that, this region has a lot of work to do in terms of, I guess broadening our mindset and ideologies, because sometimes we're very stuck in our ways. And I think that if we really want people to continue coming back, or new families to continue to see that opportunity, to see their American dream in areas like Scranton, then we need to continue. We need to have welcoming policies, a welcoming culture in this region, and I think that's an area that we still need to work on. And I do think that we need more investment in programs that are not only, connecting diverse communities, like communities that have been here for generations and generationally their families have been here, to some of the, newer immigrant families that are coming to this region. And I think that we're starting to see a little bit of a shift with that. And I mean, I think our youth, our children are also, because they're growing up in such a diverse community, I've asked some of the kids in my program, do you realize that we live in a predominantly white community?
Right.
And it's interesting because I realized that since I was a child, because I would stick out, in classroom.
Yeah.
Most people my age did not look like me going to the Scranton School District. The children in my program are like, no, I actually never really thought about that too much.
Right.
And it's interesting how experiences are changing because they're growing up in such a culturally diverse and rich environment that they're like, this is interesting. And I'm like, whoa, just a 20-year difference. We're having totally different experiences.
That's not a lot of time.
Correct.
So change doesn't have to, I think that's really goes to show that change doesn't have to happen slowly. It can happen quickly, but like your program, it needs to have the right things in place in order for that to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, out of experience from me growing up in the Poconos in East Stroudsburg, Bushkill primarily, we see before 9/11, it was very, 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 very white. It was like vacation homes for people who lived in New York City, who lived in like North Jersey. After, the towers fell and, we started, people started moving into the area. They got out of the city because the proximity from Bushkill and Marshall's Creek to New York City isn't terrible. I mean, the traffic to New York City is still really bad. Anybody that lives out there, y'all already know traffic's rough. But it was an easy commute. So after a while, right now, it's looking a lot more like an extension of North Jersey. There's a large booming Hispanic population there. There's a lot more Blacks that are also living in that area. And, in that regard, there's, they were able to use some of the money and the tax money from people to expand some roads, repair some of the infrastructure, and really make it better. It's also really expensive, but it's changing. And that's something that it was crazy to see growing up because I got to see it in real time.
Yeah.
Then, I went to Kutztown University, and Kutztown University is a very rural town. But just outside of Kutztown is Allentown.
Yeah.
Allentown, Bethlehem, and Easton are just those three cities are just outside of Kutztown. And it's just such a stark difference between the two. And it's like Scranton used to have like just small businesses running everything without any big commercial chains. But now we're starting to see, Walmart's here. We have Dollar Generals. I couldn't even tell you how many Dollar Generals are out here. Family Dollars. There's just so many like little like corporations that are just popping up just to kind of fill the void.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be nice to see just more small business coming out and like really having the community back it like it used to back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that a lot of the small businesses that we are seeing, we can't ignore that a lot of those are immigrant
That's
businesses.
true. That we're seeing now.
And I wish there was more of a more of a working collaboration or partnership with these new business owners, especially that are, immigrant business owners with places like the Scranton Chamber of Commerce. There's still, that's what I mean. Like there's still a disconnect somehow.
No, is the Chamber of Commerce really they're not reaching out at all to some of these businesses? I don't see a lot of interaction like on their page or Facebook or anything like that.
So I recently went to a Mexican grocery store and I asked if they were involved at all with the Scranton Chamber of Commerce or if there was any like Latino Business Association, and they said that there was not. So I think that's, again, this is what I mean, like community partnership is still lacking in some forms and this region is known for that in general, like people working in silos. Like I see that in the nonprofit world, like people are and not as much anymore, very territorial on the service they provided. But I also find that right now with some of these immigrant businesses, kind of everybody's in their own bubble doing their own thing, but there hasn't been, that like brought like community collaboration amongst, like, for example, Latinos,
Right.
to say, hey, there's a lot of us now that are contributing to the city of Scranton through our business and whatnot. Why don't we all come together and form some kind of association and, work
Yeah.
together? That I don't think has happened. And maybe it's happening quietly, kind of like not on the books, maybe, like,
Yeah.
however you want to say it, but maybe more informally. That's what I meant.
Right. Yeah.
But there, and so then that's one piece. But then the other piece is, let's say that there is a Latino business association one day. Then it's a matter of them working with like the mainstream, like Scranton,
Right.
Chamber of Commerce, and again, it's a two-way street.
It has to go back and forth.
And that's only going to benefit the broader community.
Yeah, it builds that strong foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with that said, I mean, the current events right now are not the best. Because I know we've talked a lot about, the Latinos in the community and trying to, build that interconnectivity with the rest of the other communities. Is correct.
Mm-hmm.
We, as you are probably well aware, there has been a lot of ICE activity throughout the United States.
Yeah.
Right now, as we're recording this right now, we have all the stuff going on in Minnesota. In Minnesota, Minneapolis, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And we've also had quite a few stuff happen just in the city alone. I believe there was one business owner not too long ago that had a couple different businesses and properties, and he was also taken by ICE, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
I believe we had a father was taking his daughter to school, I believe, and he was also taken. Do you think, and talking to other people within the city, primarily, white people who've been here for a very long time, they don't seem too bothered. They feel like it's, the way it should be.
Mm-hmm.
There's been other voices in other communities that's been adamantly against it. We've seen the protests time and time again as of late. Do you think this back and forth is going to further divide? Do you think, we could get on board? Because the mayor of Scranton even mentioned that she's not going to intervene with any ICE activity that happens within the city.
Yeah.
So there's not really, even from a governmental standpoint, there's no pushback.
Mm-hmm.
So my fear, from what I've seen, is that this is going to further cause a rift.
Mm-hmm.
People are not going to want to invest because it's too much of a danger.
Yeah.
How does that? Have you seen the effects of ICE affecting, like your programs and then the people that you've been around a lot?
Yeah. So, I've directly and indirectly,
Right.
and I'll leave it at that, but seen the impact of what is happening. And Scranton, there have been at least a dozen immigrant families that have had family members detained and possibly deported. So there's a lot of fear, and although we're not seeing what's happening in other places like Charlotte, North Carolina, what was it, Minneapolis, Los Angeles, Chicago, there is a lot of there is ICE activity, and we know that ICE is here almost on a daily basis in the city of Scranton. And the arrests seem to be a little bit more targeted. And they're looking for someone, and they go and they detain them, and unfortunately there is collateral damage if they're around other folks who don't know their rights, don't advocate for their rights, and essentially end up getting detained as well. I do. There's a division because there's a division for a lot of reasons with this whole immigration thing. I think that there's this really false narrative where we're blaming the current state of economy in the United States on immigrants. We're blaming immigrants historically, not only in the United States. We saw this in other moments in history in Europe, where immigrants are scapegoats to the country's social and economic problems. Why? Because they're the easiest target.
Yeah.
And so there is a false narrative that unfortunately people who are not doing their research, they're not really understanding how migration happens. And that unfortunately, the United States is many times at the center of why people are being displaced abroad and are ultimately facing the most difficult decision of their lives, one of them, to migrate somewhere else. Nobody wants to just pick up and leave their loved ones, their home, their language, their culture, their food,
Right.
To go to another country where that it's not necessarily the most welcoming, because we're not. As a country, we have not been the most welcoming.
No.
And our society, this country has thrived and been so successful on the backs of Native Americans, Black communities, and Hispanic and Latinos. So, but again, there's this false narrative, that all of our economic and social issues are because of immigrants. And so I think that's where we need to advocate and educate and bring awareness of these are the facts. The reality is that if we were to deport every immigrant that has moved to Scranton's economy would collapse.
It would.
It would absolutely collapse.
But we've seen that with Florida. When they had was it last year, 2 years ago, I think now, when they were just getting rid of a lot of immigrants off of work sites, construction sites.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happened? Jobs weren't getting completed. Nobody wanted the narrative of people saying, oh, they're here to take our jobs, this, that, and the third. Okay, now those jobs are available, but who's going to work them? Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to be in the heat on those farms. Nobody wants to do all this crazy heat. And Florida heat, going towards like Miami or Orlando, like nobody wants to do that. Mm-hmm. The people who are advocating the most for it aren't stepping up.
Yeah.
And it's proven time and time again. We have accounts going all the way back to industrialization. Mm-hmm. It's the same story every time.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing is like a lot of the people, especially the Caucasian community, who maybe they're generations removed from the immigration experience, but it's the same reasons.
Yeah.
The same story is repeating itself.
Yeah.
People, their ancestors left Europe to come for a better life when there wasn't really a systematic racist system put in place, because that's what immigration laws have become. Because there are quotas, and it's not meant to be welcoming to Black and brown folks, but it's for the same reasons, because they were looking for better opportunities, because they were displaced in their countries. That's the same thing that's happening, just from other parts of the world, Asia, Africa, and Latin America. And unfortunately, a lot of people say, well, why aren't they doing it the legal way? Again, there's just not enough understanding that there hasn't been a legal way for people. People don't want to be here undocumented. If there was a pathway to citizenship, people will invest time and money, and I'm talking about thousands of dollars people will pay to make sure that they get a pathway to citizenship. But the last time there was any type of immigration reform was in 1996, and it didn't give most people a pathway to citizenship. It did the exact opposite. It criminalized immigrants, and it actively took away their legal status to make them undocumented and deportable. So again, that was the last immigration reform. It was not even a positive one. It was just all full of really racist policies to make more people deportable. So when, again, people say, because people don't understand the laws, don't understand the history, when they say, why are all these people coming in the legal way? Why don't they just become a citizen? Because there was never a pathway in the first place.
Exactly.
And my hope is that there's more education and more awareness about this topic. Like this, and especially in the schools. And I know it's a controversial topic, but it's a part of our lived experience, and it's our everyday history. Yeah. Like what's happening today is really terrorizing.
It's
and it's going to be in our history books, but there's just a lot of misinformation. Just if putting aside the humanity piece of it,
Right.
if you don't care, just because nobody should be labeled illegal, right?
Right.
And so why don't we give them a pathway to citizenship? They're already working, contributing to the economy, paying taxes.
Billions of dollars that they will never see.
Correct. That they cannot benefit from. So they are paying into our tax base, into our retirement, into Medicare, Medicaid, and they are not eligible for any of this. Why? Because they're undocumented. But they're paying into the system. Again, a lot of misinformation. People think and blaming them. Oh, the economy is bad. People can't find jobs because of them. They, whatever. They're not mooching off of any system that they're not eligible for in the first place.
And I think that's the issue that I find the most with, and what's kind of sparked me to pioneer the show, is that too many times that people of all walks of life, for the most part, especially people who are living paycheck to paycheck, which is a lot of people in the United States, they're so quick to blame their neighbor versus blaming the source. Why don't we look at the policies that were passed almost unanimously, decade after decade, administration after administration, to keep you down? But we've seen it a lot. Where people are just like, oh, well, it's going to be so-and-so's fault because that makes me feel better. Versus being like, all right, well, why can't my job pay me more when our CEO is making record profits and he's keeping it for himself? You see all the people with the layoffs, but they're still not going to blame the company. They're going to blame you. Well, maybe not you, but like somebody else. And it's mind-baffling because the education really isn't there. It's a lot of propaganda that we're seeing. It's a lot of, what aboutisms and everything. And it's kind of disheartening. And why I kind of want to bring more awareness, more education about an array of topics. Mm-hmm. I think with this being, the intro topic, and everything going forward, I think it's important because it's what's happening right now. Mm-hmm. With the boom in our area getting stronger, with more business coming up and the city becoming more and more lively, you have people going to U and people staying after graduating from Scranton University, which is in the heart of downtown. Yeah. I think it's inspiring. I think we're living on a gold mine right now in Northeast PA. I'm just hoping that people really embrace each other and kind of toss these narratives aside, which is hopeful thinking. There's still a lot of work. A lot of stuff that needs to happen with the government. Or local government, which I think is important for people to go out and vote. Sure. But you're right. When it comes to that pathway to citizenship, there really hasn't been a pathway to citizenship. It's been very selective. And people, more times than not, people are undocumented because they're overstaying their visas, because it takes them 10 to 30 years to become a citizen. And after a while, it lapses because the courts are backed up. Local government's backed up trying to process all this stuff, and it's not viable.
We need an immigration reform.
We do
because everything is backlogged.
It is.
And then we're firing immigration judges, but we're hiring more ICE agents, to deport people. And in particular, this administration is actively making people undocumented.
On purpose.
There are people with a variety of immigration statuses who maybe had a pathway to citizenship. This administration is making it a point to take away their legal status, to force them to become undocumented so that they can meet their agenda that they sold to the people that his followers, who he has made believe that they are struggling because of these people who are invading our country, who, it's just easy. It's incredible what the propaganda does to the human psyche, right? And when you just are bombarded with it from every place, you start to believe it, even if you have the research saying otherwise.
Absolutely.
That actually this country needs immigrants here because we have a declining population, especially amongst the white community. Yeah. The only reason Pennsylvania hasn't seen a significant population decline and a decline in our economy was because of all the BIPOC community members, including Hispanic and Latino immigrants and non-immigrants moving to this Commonwealth. Otherwise, Pennsylvania would be in a really, really shitty place economically if it wasn't for all the Black and brown folks moving to this region.
Oh,
so, but again, that's the research, that's the data. And what this unfortunate politicians, and I'm not just saying one political party or another does it, all of them.
You could pull stuff from either side.
They love to use that zero-sum theory. Well, there's this, we're going to create an issue to keep them distracted, fight amongst each other, while we pass policies that enrich the wealthy, especially the ultra wealthy. And that's exactly what's happening. Immigrants are the scapegoats right now.
Yeah.
Get the people riled up, upset with them that they're struggling because of them, while we pass policies that benefit multi-million and billion-dollar corporations and families and whatnot, while the rest of the community is struggling. So let's just put the blame on these Black and brown immigrants that are coming to this region. Because again, that's another piece of the narrative. This has been a very racist country, unfortunately,
since its inception.
And so we like to blame Black and brown folks for their own suffering, when many times we are systematically contributing.
I mean, look at the Jim Crow era, right?
Absolutely.
After emancipation, I mean, Black folks were already hunted down by the cops, the rise of the KKK at the same point. And the media was gaslighting white people, saying, hey, this so-and-so should not be around. You have to sundown towns and everything. It's been a narrative for so long.
It's just a continuation of it. Yeah. Unfortunately. And it's just now with social media and so much other stuff, it just feels like it's overwhelming. And it is overwhelming.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's very scary because it's becoming very aggressive and very violent. And I do fear for our community members, including in our region, and thank goodness we haven't seen the aggressive and violent tactics that we've seen in other cities. But what if it does come here? I fear for my child who, is a U.S. citizen, but for the mere fact that she's a brown little girl with a Hispanic Latino name, it's very disheartening. But on the flip side, at the very same time, I do feel hope that our youth are going to change that narrative.
Good.
And I'm not talking only about, the youth in my program. I'm talking about youth in general. Yeah. That they're going to find common ground. And that we are going to hopefully see a brighter United States, a brighter Scranton. Because I don't know, there seems to be more, I don't know, our youth tend to be a little bit more inclusive, more, progressive and trying to be inclusive of each other. And I'm not saying that there aren't children that,
that are going against the grain, so to speak.
Correct. And everybody's entitled to their, ideologies and political opinions, but that at the end of the day, despite the political differences, they will find some kind of common ground. So my hope does lie in youth more than the current adults in our society.
Absolutely. I've always said it. I've always said that it always comes down to, and why I'm huge on like public education and making sure like schools are well funded, because it does, how a child is raised through the system and who they're surrounded with has an impact. And I think teaching them and the full history, the nitty gritty, the good, the bad, is super important. And I think too often we paint everything with a rose colored glasses, rose tinted glasses, and it's not good. It doesn't help anything. You might be like, oh, we're trying to traumatize our kids, but
or racism no longer exists.
Yeah, but that's not true. And I think having a more diverse community like this area is becoming, I think that's super important. I think the program that you're in, the STARS program, is doing phenomenal work. I see a lot of it online on social media. And I think, this is something that should definitely continue. I would love to see, more connectivity between a bunch of different groups, a bunch of different walks of life. because there's a lot to gain. And unfortunately, there's also a lot to lose by not having it. So I'm hoping for the best. And let us know, like, what else is going on with some of the stuff you do, a lot of nonprofit work.
Yeah.
Just let us know what else is going on that we should be aware of.
Yeah, so in terms of the STARS program, I do a lot of community collaboration with different organizations. So, for example, a part of our programming with the kids, aside from help providing them academic assistance, we have curriculum that focuses on civic engagement and service learning. And why do we do that? Because, again, they are our future leaders of our community. So we want them to understand that there is a life outside of our bubbles that we all live in. Yeah. And we want them to be educated and aware of some of the other communities in our region and some of, their challenges as well. And what can they do, to work together with those communities to make a better Scranton for everyone. So we work with nonprofits such as Scranton Tomorrow, Penn State Extension. We've worked with like the Everhart Museum, and Black Scranton Project, the University of Scranton, where we work on a collaborative effort to basically bring information, education, awareness through interactive workshops with the kids to educate them on our community, on their community. And then there's always some kind of service component through the service learning, where we take them out into the community and basically have them engage in that, specific area that they were learning about, and do some kind of, activity that involves service and helping others. Again, why? Because oftentimes communities of colors are the recipients, right, of receiving services or receiving donations or help. But I want our children to know not only that, one, this is your community and you belong to it, so there's a sense of belonging, but also you have a lot to give back. You have a lot to invest in this community. There's a reason, right? And it might not be investing money, but it's time, right? Investing in like understanding, why is there a growing homelessness community in Scranton? Why are there so many potholes in our streets? So bringing them education about some of these challenges so that, maybe it sparks some kind of passion and like, what? I'm going to write to the mayor of Scranton and say, hey, there's a light in my alleyway that has not worked for years, and
we get that fixed.
Can we get that fixed? And how do we do that? Again, because they are the future leaders of our community. I don't want the kids to feel like, many times I didn't feel like I belonged or that I was a true Scrantonian because of what I looked like, because I wasn't born here, because we came in. And I did experience racism. So I was one of those, like, I'm going to get the hell out of here. But I find that a lot of these kids are like, wow, like, Scranton might not be the coolest place, but there's definitely, a lot more to do than when we were growing up.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, those partnerships are expanding and continuing. I mean, we do a lot of work with the district, especially on a wellness fair. At McNichols Plaza, where we're targeting underinsured and uninsured families to have access to community resources. So I coordinate all of these federal healthcare clinics that are already here in Scranton, but to come and bring awareness of the services they offer and different like behavioral health and mental health services. Again, for people who are uninsured or underinsured, and there's going to be more, unfortunately, because of that one awful bill act that passed in July. And then I also work on a part-time basis for Community Justice Project, which is a public interest law firm that focuses on civil rights and immigrant rights. Through my job there, I've been doing a lot of Know Your Rights workshops. So educating immigrants on their constitutional rights. God forbid they are being, stopped by any type of law enforcement, just educating them. Despite your immigration status, you do have constitutional rights and these are your rights. But also educating community allies. So non-immigrants who are like, hey, what's happening? I don't, I don't support what's happening. And how can I stand in solidarity with our immigrant and refugee brothers and sisters in Scranton? And so the first tool is you need to understand your constitutional rights so you can better advocate for others' constitutional rights. So though I've been leading a lot of those workshops, and we have a few that we're talking about of continuing to lead. And it's been through, and those are really grassroots workshops. Like, I'm not going to say where they happen, but they are really embedded in the community.
How can people who want to participate and help out and volunteer, I guess would be the right words, how can they help out with that? Where should they go?
They can reach out to us on our website at Community Justice Project. And there's our staff have their contact information there. So let's say that they say, hey, we want to request a workshop at my local, I don't know, community center.
Right.
How can we set that up? So they would just send us an email basically saying, we're looking for a workshop on whatever it is. We've even worked with some of the community members who might be displaced because of the AI centers up in Archbold.
Yeah, they're building a lot of them.
Yes. And we've had to go up there and basically provide information of what they can and they can't do, and trying to advocate against AI being opened up there. So
it's rough.
So it's not just immigrants' rights, it's civil rights in general. And I'm trying to see if there's anything other events. Those are really kind of the main things that are going on right now.
Okay. So there's not anything we should look out for in the next coming months, or is that pretty much what's set coming in February and March?
Yeah. So for example, the wellness fair, that's until June.
Okay, so that's continuous.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the workshops, the Know Your Rights workshops, again, that we don't really advertise that,
right.
But people can inquire through email or through calling us through the contact information on Community Justice Project's website.
Yeah, I could always link that for people to, find the links. So that's not a problem. Awesome. That's amazing stuff. I really do hope that you continue the work, that you continue fighting for the civil rights of everybody that lives in this area. And I'm hoping to see continued growth in everything that you do, as well as just life in general, outside of the work.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you coming out. Any last words that you want to tell the audience?
Well, first, thank you very much for inviting me to this. This was really exciting. And I wish you the best with this. You're going to do amazing with this. So I'm really, really excited for you. And I would just say, if you believe in something, you're passionate about something, don't lose hope, and collaborate with your neighbors, with your, friends, with your loved ones, and advocate for change. You have a voice. And with more people coming together, there's power. And
there's power in numbers.
Yes, there absolutely is.
There's more of us than there are of them. And on that note, I'm Dominic. It was a pleasure. See y'all next time. Awesome.